Before we step into this energy, I want to pause for just a moment and speak to this community, because you matter to me far beyond what happens inside any single reading. To everyone who has been here, who keeps showing up, who takes the time to leave a comment or share a video or simply sit quietly and let the words wash over them, thank you, genuinely. I see your comments, and I read the ones that say, this felt like it was written just for me. And I want you to know that what you feel in those moments is real. This work is built on real energy, real intention, and real care for each of you. To anyone stepping into this space for the first time today, welcome. You belong here just as much as anyone who has been here from the beginning. Something brought you to this reading specifically, and I do not believe that happens without reason. Now let us breathe into this together, because this one has some weight to it. They came back, Virgo, or they are about to, and the version of you that is going to meet them at that door is someone they were not prepared for, someone quieter than they expected, someone steadier, someone who has done something in their absence that they did not anticipate and perhaps did not believe you were capable of. You healed. Not perfectly, not completely. Healing is never a destination you arrive at and unpack your bags, but you healed enough, you grew enough, you shifted so fundamentally in how you see yourself and what you are willing to accept, that the person standing at that door now is carrying a version of you inside their memory that no longer fully exists. And when they return, when they show up with whatever they are bringing, whether it is an apology, an explanation, a casual reaching out as if time erases everything, a sudden reappearance wrapped in charm or vulnerability or something in between, they are going to meet someone they do not quite recognize. And that moment, Virgo, that moment of their quiet realization is one that the energy around you right now is fully prepared for. Let us go into what this actually means. There is a specific kind of foolishness that only becomes visible in hindsight. The kind that cannot be seen in the moment, because in the moment it is dressed up as confidence, as indifference, as the quiet arrogance of someone who believes they have more time than they do. The kind that looks like a choice made freely until the consequences of that choice arrive, and suddenly it does not feel quite so free anymore. This person made a choice regarding you, maybe multiple choices. Maybe it was one defining moment, or maybe it was a slow accumulation of moments, each one small enough to justify individually, but devastating in their sum. Maybe they pulled away. Maybe they took you for granted. Maybe they treated your consistency as something they were entitled to rather than something they were privileged to receive. Maybe they left in a way that did not honor what existed between you. Maybe they stayed but made you feel like leaving was something you had to do just to breathe again. Whatever the specific shape of it, the essence is the same. They underestimated you. They looked at your patience and mistook it for permanence. They looked at your love and mistook it for unconditional availability. They looked at your grace and mistook it for the absence of limits. They saw how much you gave and somehow concluded that you would always give that much regardless of how little was returned. And now the bill has arrived. Not in an angry way, not in a vengeful way. Those energies are not what I am sensing around you at all. The bill has arrived in the most elegant and disorienting form it could possibly take. You simply became someone who no longer needs what they were withholding. I want to sit with something here because I think it is important to be honest about the complexity of what you are feeling as this person begins to move back into your atmosphere. It is not simple, is it? There is a part of you, maybe a large part, that still carries the echo of what this connection meant. You are not made of stone. You never were. That warmth, that genuine feeling, the real thing that existed between you at some point, you did not manufacture that. It was real, and real things leave real impressions. So when their name appears, when you sense them coming back, when you feel the familiar frequency of their energy beginning to move toward you again, there is a response in your body that is honest and human and cannot be entirely controlled by your very capable, very analytical mind. And that is okay. You are allowed to feel the echo without being swept back into the storm. You are allowed to recognize that something mattered without deciding that it must matter in the same way forever. You are allowed to be human about this, Virgo. What you are not required to do is perform indifference. You do not feel or manufacture a coldness that is not in your nature just to prove a point. That has never been who you are, and it does not need to be now. What you are required to do is be honest with yourself, first and always, about what you want now, about what you are willing to step back into, and under what conditions, about who you are in this moment compared to who you were when this person last truly knew you. Because that gap, that distance between who you were then and who you are now, that is where your power lives. Let me tell you what I see when I look at the energy around the moment of this return. I see someone approaching you who has been doing their own version of processing. And I want to be careful here because I do not want to over romanticize what they have been through or use it as a reason to bypass your own discernment. But energetically, there is a quality of genuine reckoning on their side, a real confrontation with what they lost, with what they did, with how they showed up or failed to show up, and what that actually cost them. They have sat with it, maybe not in a deeply spiritual way, maybe not with the same level of intentionality that you bring to your inner work, but in their own way, in the way that life eventually forces everyone to reckon with their choices. They have felt the weight of this, and that feeling, that reckoning, it has a name even if they have not named it yet. It feels like foolishness. The particular sting of realizing you had something genuinely valuable and you handled it carelessly. The particular shame of understanding that your confidence was actually just blindness. The particular discomfort of watching someone you underestimated become someone undeniable. They see you now, Virgo, maybe more clearly than they ever did when you were right in front of them. And that clarity on their end is arriving at the exact moment that you need it least, because you have already moved forward. Not completely, not without complexity, but forward enough that they're seeing you now lands differently than it would have 6 months ago, a year ago, in the thick of the hurt. Now, here is where I want to get very specific about what responding differently actually means, because I think there can be a misunderstanding around what growth looks like in this moment. Responding differently does not mean being cruel. It does not mean performing unbothered when you are not completely unbothered. It does not mean a dramatic monologue where you list every grievance and every wound with perfect articulate precision, as satisfying as that fantasy might occasionally feel. Responding differently means something much quieter and much more powerful than any of that. It means your nervous system has a different relationship with this person's presence now. It means the desperate need for their validation, for their explanation, for their acknowledgement of what happened has softened. Not because you no longer deserved those things, you always deserved them, but because somewhere along the way you stopped needing them from this specific source in order to feel whole. That is the shift. That is what they are going to feel when they encounter you. You are not going to be performing calm. You are going to be calm. There is an enormous difference between those two things. And people can feel the difference instantly, even if they cannot articulate what they are sensing. They are going to reach for the version of you that they remember. The version that leaned in, that worked hard for the connection, that made themselves smaller to accommodate, that tried harder when things got difficult. And that version of you is going to be not quite there in the way they expected. Not gone, not hostile, just further away than they anticipated. And that distance is not a punishment you are enacting. It is simply the natural result of the ground you have covered while they were busy assuming you were waiting in place. Have you already started to notice this shift in yourself? That thing where someone who used to have, a particular kind of hold over your emotional state just does not quite have that same grip anymore? I would love for you to share that in the comments if you feel comfortable doing so, because I know that experience can feel confusing, sometimes even a little lonely, even when it is the healthiest thing. Let me know if this is resonating. I want to speak to the ones who are wrestling with a very specific question right now, and I think many of you are wrestling with it even if you have not said it out loud. The question of whether to let them back in. And I am not going to answer that for you because that is not actually my role here, and it would not be honest of me to pretend I can see every detail of your specific situation clearly enough to make that call. What I can do is offer you the energetic landscape and trust you to navigate it with the extraordinary discernment you have been developing. What I see is this. The version of you that exists right now is genuinely capable of engaging with this person's return from a place of clarity rather than a place of need. That is new. That is significant. It means that if you choose to explore what a reconnection could look like, you are doing so with your eyes open and your feet on solid ground rather than from a place of longing that clouds everything. But I also see that you have tasted something in this period of distance that you did not expect to taste. You have tasted yourself, your own company, your own capacity, your own rhythm without the interference of someone else's inconsistency or emotional unavailability or whatever specific flavor of difficulty this person brought into your life. And that taste is going to be hard to give up, as it should be. So as you move through whatever unfolds with this person, carry that taste with you. Do not leave it at the door just because their presence feels familiar. Familiarity is not the same as goodness. History is not the same as compatibility. The comfort of the known is not always worth the cost of returning to something that cost you too much the first time. Let your growth set the terms, not your longing. There is something else present in this energy that I have been circling around, and I want to name it directly now. Your silence in this situation is doing something. Whether you are aware of it or not, the way you have been moving or not moving in response to whatever has been happening has been speaking loudly, not in a calculated way. You have not been strategically withholding yourself to create an effect. You have simply been living, healing, redirecting your energy toward yourself and the things that are actually growing in your life. But from the outside, from this person's perspective, your silence, your stillness, your simple act of getting on with your life has been one of the most powerful things you could have done. Because people who expect to remain in your mind and heart regardless of how they treat you are deeply unsettled by evidence to the contrary. Your unbothered energy, even the partial, imperfect, still processing version of it, has rattled something in them. It has made them look at their choices differently. It has made them feel the weight of what they dismissed. You did not plan this. You were just growing. And growth, it turns out, is its own kind of sovereignty. Let me pull back into the broader energy one more time before we close, because there is something I do not want to leave unsaid. This moment, this return, this encounter that is either already beginning or is on the near horizon, it is a test, not a test being administered by the universe to see if you pass or fail, more like a mirror being held up to show you how far you have actually come. When you see yourself reflected in how you respond, when you notice the steadiness in your own voice, the clarity in your own choices, the absence of that old desperation that used to make you compromise yourself to keep a connection alive, I want you to recognize that for what it is. That is the evidence of your work. That is the return on every difficult day you chose yourself anyway, every boundary you held even when it hurt, every moment you sat with discomfort instead of reaching for something that would ease it in the short term but cost you in the long term. You have been building something, Virgo, and this situation is one of the first places where you are going to clearly see what you have built. Stand in it. Own it. Do not shrink from it out of guilt or out of old habits of making yourself more palatable, more accessible, more available than you actually want to be. You are allowed to take up the space you have earned. As we come to the close of this reading, I want to leave you with a few things to carry with you. The first is this: whatever this person brings when they arrive, whatever form the return takes, you are not obligated to meet them at the level of their remorse or their readiness or their timeline. You are on your own timeline now, a timeline built around your healing, your growth, your life. They do not get to set the pace of this just because they have decided they are ready. You get to decide what ready means for you. The second is this: your different response in this moment is not something you need to explain or justify to anyone. Not to them, not to mutual friends, not even to the parts of yourself that still carry old guilt about taking up space or having needs or choosing yourself. Your response is simply the honest expression of who you are now. And who you are now deserves to be expressed without apology. And the third thing, the one I want to leave sitting in your chest as you move through the rest of your day. The fact that they feel foolish is not your triumph to celebrate, even if part of you understands why the feeling is there. Because you were never actually in competition with this person. You were never trying to win. You were trying to love and be loved in return, simply and honestly. The fact that they could not meet you in that is their limitation, not your failure. And the fact that you can move through their return with grace and groundedness and a quiet, unshakable sense of yourself, that is not revenge, Virgo. That is just who you became while they were busy underestimating you. And it is, without question, the most powerful thing you could ever offer them to witness. Take care of yourself. Honor what you have built. Trust the version of you that is showing up in this moment, because that version has earned their place at this table. I am so proud of the work you have done, and I will see you in the next one.